This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, B 306. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia? Senate Committee Room, B 306. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, B 306. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia? Senate Committee Room, B 306. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, B306. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia? Senate Committee Room, B306. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, B 306. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia? Senate Committee Room, B 306. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, B 306. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia? Senate Committee Room, B 306. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, B306. Did you know live Senate video is now available at youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia?
Good afternoon and welcome to General Laws and Technology. I'm going to ask the clerk to open the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We do have a few administrative matters before we get started with presentations and some identical bills as well. First off, Delegate Price couldn't be here today. She's got HB 1718 and asked that it go by for the day.
So moved.
There's a motion, a second. All in favor of taking HB 1718 by for the day will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's by for the day. Then we have two that need to be re-referred. First, HB 1759. The Senate companion went to Rehab and Social Services, and I would entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Okay, so is that a vote on the board to re-refer 1759 to Rehab and Social Services?
Ayes 12, no zero.
Thank you. The next was HB 2054, and I believe that we took the Senate version. We referred that to local government. I would entertain a motion to do the same.
Second.
Okay. So there's a motion, a second, to refer 2054 to local government. We'll vote on the board on that.
Ayes 12, no zero.
Okay. We now have 10 identical bills that I think have to be voted on individually, right? Not in a block. The first on my list from Delegate Wiley, HB 1567, on the Virginia Economic Development Partnership Authority operational plan submission, is identical to Senator Craig's that passed this committee and the Senate unanimously. So is there a motion that we report? Okay, motion and a second, so we'll vote on reporting HB 1567.
Ayes 12, no zero.
Thank you. Next, we've got from Delegate Campbell, Office of Inspector General, Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, required reports. Adds them to the list of entities that the Inspector General reports on. This is identical to Senator Perry's SB 885 that passed the Senate uncontested, including in this committee.
Second.
Okay, so we'll vote on HB 1578.
Next one's going to finance.
Okay, the next one, HB 1606 from Delegate Hernandez about unclaimed property, is the way it is now is identical to SB 996 from Senators Williams, Graves, Reeves, and Craig that passed the Senate uncontested. The motion would be to refer to finance.
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, didn't we add an amendment to it? Is that in this as well?
It is exactly identical. They added them in the House side.
Great. All right, thank you.
Okay, so the motion and second was to refer to finance the recommendation to report. We can vote on that.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Okay, next from Delegate McClure, HB 1623, the Eviction Diversion Pilot Program, identical to Senator Locke's bill that passed the Senate uncontested, including this committee.
I have a question.
Senator Locke.
Does this one have the same amendments that mine had?
Somebody said it does.
Okay, it does. Okay, all right. Then I move to report.
Second.
Okay, well, we can now vote on reporting HB 1623.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Okay, that bill is reported. HB 1632 from Delegate Hayes on the Office of Data Governance and Analytics, identical to SB 1137 from Senator Boysko, passed the Senate uncontested, including this committee. Is there a motion and a second? Okay. Okay, so motion, it's been moved and seconded, so please indicate your preference on the voting board.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Okay, now we have HB 1653 from Delegate Thomas. This was with the Real Estate Board, regulations related to fees to charge a license, identical to SB 785 from Senator Suderline, passed the Senate and this committee uncontested. Is there a motion? Okay, moved and seconded. We can vote on HB 1650. Oh, I'm sorry. The motion is to report and refer to finance, and that's been seconded.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Okay, that bill is sent to finance with recommendation to report. HB 1704, first of several from Delegate Bulova, the Resale Disclosure Act and Resale Certificate. This bill is identical to SB 808 from Senator Craig, which passed our committee and the Senate uncontested. Is there a motion to report?
Second.
Okay, we'll vote on reporting as HB 1704.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Next, for Delegate Bulova, HB 1706 on the Residential Property Disclosure Act, required disclosures, aircraft noise. This is identical to SB 1210 from Senator Pekarsky that we recommended unanimously and passed the Senate.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote on 1706 then.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Okay, and I believe last of Delegate Bulova's, I believe, is HB 1707, the Contractor Transaction Recovery Fund, raising the per claim individual limit, identical to SB 1059 from Senator Hackworth, that was uncontested in this committee and in the Senate. Is there a motion?
Move to report.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded in that bill. We can vote on 1707.
Ayes 12, no zero.
Okay. Then we've got HB 1742 and Pari-mutuel wagering on historical horse racing, percentage retained for distribution. The motion would be to,
Refer to finance.
okay. It's been moved and seconded to recommend to finance for reporting. We can vote on that. Okay.
Ayes
Now,
12, no zero.
we're entering, we're moving into three similar bills that are not identical. The first was HB 1638 from Delegate Hayes, very similar to Senator Lucas's, the Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, Affordable Housing Criminal Record Model Screening Policy. Just a few words difference. I did not hear back from Delegate Hayes about any reasons why he wouldn't conform to Senator Lucas. I'm sorry. Have you looked at the other language? It's almost identical.
They should be, exactly. So I have no problem matching my language with Senator Lucas's bill.
Move to conform.
Oh, no, it's in the similar section. Okay, so the motion was to conform it, so we would say,
To conform
okay,
HB 1638 to
SB 1128.
SB 1120.
Okay, and there's a second for that. So all in favor of conforming will say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
So move to report.
Okay. So the vote is on reporting
As conformed.
as conformed, HB 1638.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Okay, now we come to HB 1667 from Delegate Jones on the Board for Barbers and Cosmetology. Just a technical difference in the bottom of subdivision B to Senator Aird's bill. I spoke to his office, and my understanding is that he's fine with conforming. So is there a motion to conform?
Moved.
Okay, so we're conforming HB 1667 to SB 1228. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, there's a motion and a second to report this bill as amended, as conformed. Please indicate your preference on the voting board. Okay.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Okay, the next one will need to go to, well, we have to conform it first, but this is from Delegate Gardner, HB 2350, Department of Emergency Management. Finance put a delayed effective date to July 1st, 2027, and I would entertain a motion to, okay, so first, all in favor of conforming it to the Senate version will indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, bill is conformed, and it would need to go, the motion would be report and refer to finance.
So moved.
Okay. Lots of support for that motion. So let's vote on the board then. Okay.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Okay, now we just have 9 or 10 bills left.
Thank you, Mr.
I have a sign-up list. Is Delegate Cohn here about HB 1800? Welcome. Why don't you tell us about your bill?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, HB 1800 adds playgrounds to the definition of places of public accommodation. This bill seeks to clarify a gray area in our code and would specifically ensure persons with disabilities have the right to the full and free use of public playgrounds. We have some localities and school systems who are building and renovating playgrounds that are not fully accessible to our families and children, and I know that, like me, you believe that that just isn't acceptable. So let's make the Code of Virginia very clear. In this area, this bill has the support of the Arc of Virginia PTA, and of course, the good folks of the 15th District.
Move to report.
Okay, are there members of the public who would like to speak, who have any issues or opposition to this bill?
To speak, please raise your hand.
Anyone here in support who wants to weigh in before we vote? Okay, so this conforms with like the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it does it require changes or?
The biggest issue is that when you look at our current code section, which is 51.5-44, the rights of persons with disability in public places and places of public accommodation, there are multiple times where public buildings, public facilities are mentioned, but much like how the code really works to differentiate, it says sidewalks, walkways, paths of travel. Sometimes I think we find a need to be slightly more specific. I do understand sometimes the hesitation of starting to make a list, and I do understand that. But what we continue to see are violations in this area, and the only way that that is dealt with is certainly through families who have the means and the ability and the knowledge to be able to sue and push back. And that burden on our families with disabilities is already so great that I think we owe it to them to really add this into the code.
Thank you. If there are no questions, there was a motion to report.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, just for clarification. This is only for public playgrounds. And what does this do as far as cost to make, and I mean, is it going to be a requirement for localities to retrofit playgrounds, or is that accepted? I mean, is that, where are we on that? And need some explanation on that.
Mr. Chair, may I answer the senator? No, much like right now where we're working very hard in this Commonwealth because of the number of pedestrian deaths and accidents that we have, it's only when we renovate that area that we're putting in curb cuts. So this would be very similar, that as you're renovating or building new facilities, that you would need to make sure that they are compatible.
Okay, with that, I think we can proceed to vote. There was a motion and a second to report HB 1800.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay, that bill reports. Now, I've got in the queue, I've got Delegate Gardner, Askew, Hernandez, Hayes, and then Runyon signed up. Well, did she have another bill? Is okay. Okay, can we add Delegate Krizak as well to that list, please? Okay, so Delegate Askew, do you have a bill here? You've got HB 1992. I don't know if that's your only bill.
Two,
Oh, whichever one you'd like to start with.
I will start with 1992 if that's fine. Good year. Mr. Chair, this bill retains the workgroup language, including SB 1246 that this committee passed earlier, but it does take out the need for a budget amendment, since in the House we are going to continue to work on some of the funding, but the bill does require VDM and other stakeholders in emergency management to evaluate existing needs analyze sustainability of current funding or review emergency management funding models from other states, and then to provide recommendations and best practices, and hopefully something we can continue to work on in future legislative sessions.
Questions for Delegate Askew? Is there anyone in the room who has any issues with this bill or is opposed?
Move to report and refer to finance.
You took out the finance.
Okay.
It's going to finance.
Yeah, it's been requested by finance, but so the motion was to report and refer to finance, and there was a second. Please indicate your preference on the voting board.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay. That bill reports to finance. Thank you. Delegate, what's your other bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the second bill is HB 1693, which is strengthen fair housing training requirements for appraisers to require anti-discrimination training for appraisers as part of the licensure process. This bill ensures Virginia law aligns with the new appraisal foundation qualifications criteria taking effect on January 1st, 2026. The legislation requires applicants for appraisal licensures to complete fair housing training approved by the Federal Housing Board, and builds on some previous legislation we passed in 2022, which mandated 2 hours of fair housing training every 2 years for licensed appraisers. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Okay. Were there any questions for Delegate Askew about this legislation?
Move to report.
Okay, there's a motion and second, and before we vote, I'm going to ask if there's anyone here who wanted to speak against this legislation. Anyone who wanted to weigh in or give a thumbs up?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is the identical after all the reiterations in on the Senate side to the SB 995. So we're listening to.
We can.
Sorry, it's identical after the reiterations that we did on the Senate side. So the delegates bill and my SB 995 are identical at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Move to report.
The motion was to report. All in favor, please signify on the voting board.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay, that bill reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we've got next in the queue, Delegate Hernandez. You had another bill. Is he here? Maybe we already dealt with this, I guess. Okay, next up, if he's not here, is Delegate Hayes. He may have left because we dealt with it.
He is in court right now.
Okay, well, he can come back and we'll take him when he's back. But I see next in the queue Delegate Hayes.
Runyon.
Delegate Runyon. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 1571 is a cleanup bill relating to funeral directors. What it does is removes a requirement for certain statistics not to be reported. About 15 years ago, we automated the system inadvertently. These two reports were retained, requiring the funeral homes and such to report manually every so often. This information is captured elsewhere electronically and can be gathered necessary by either Division of Vital Statistics or Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers. We have Peace in the Valley, all the associations, and the Board of Professional Services are in agreement. Happy to answer any questions.
Did the Bureau of Vital Statistics speak when you had it on the other side? Were they in support, or have you worked with them?
We have worked with, let's see, Ms. Beasley.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Angie Bezick on behalf of the Virginia Funeral Directors Association. And we did work in collaboration with the Division of Vital Records and the Board of Funeral Directors to make sure that there was nothing that would be inadvertently caught up in this. And so they have confirmed that for us, and I hope you will pass the bill.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone compelled to slow down this fast-moving train with a question or opposition? Okay, there's a motion and a second to report HB 1571 as presented to us. We'll vote on the board. Can we record Senator Rouse? Oh, he's recorded himself.
15, no zero.
Okay. I think Delegate Ward was next on my list, and then Krizak.
Thank you, Mr.
Ward.
She was a kicker, right?
No.
Wait, hold her. Wait, hold. Wow.
Welcome. Okay, we'll give our Delegate Ward, please.
Thank you so much and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is a constituent bill that was brought to me by the Hampton Roads bingo callers. Callers currently wages are at $100 per session, which hasn't changed since the mid-1990s. This bill would raise their wages to $200 per session to reflect the current inflation rates. It includes holiday pay and pay increase moving forward with inflation rates. A little bit of background is when the $100 pay was in place, it was called a bingo program with a set amount of games allowed. Since then, the number of games per programs have doubled. If you'd like to know what the bill does, it requires the qualified organizations to pay bingo manager or caller registered by the department for providing their services under the current law. Payment is permissive. And it also raises the amount that the qualified organization pays from no more than $100 to no more than $200. And it requires an increase of this amount at the rate not less than 1 1/2 the times normal remuneration rate when bingo managers or callers provide services on any day designated as a legal holiday. And it provides the department by October the 1st, 2029, and annually thereafter to adjust the maximum amount rate of $200 to reflect the rate of inflation from the previous date that such rate was established, as measured by the Consumer Price Index or other method of measuring the rate of inflation that the department determines is liable and generally accepted.
Thank you, Delegate. And this, you said the Hampton Roads Association of Bingo Callers?
The Hampton Roads bingo callers.
Okay.
They've been making $100 per program for over 10 years. And they want to see a raise because before there was a smaller number of games that they had to call, and now that number of games have doubled for the same amount of money.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second to report. Is there?
Do we have an amendment?
No.
Chairman, we actually have a technical substitute that needs to be done. DLS employs a bunch of lawyers, but no mathematicians, and we do have code sections out of order. 33 comes before 34, so we'll need to do a technical substitute.
Move the substitute.
Okay. Can you just say the technical amendment just changes code sections, the order that they're in the bill, or something else?
They're just in the bill in the wrong order. The code section that's listed first actually needs to come second, and the code section that's listed second needs to come first.
Okay, so unless we will consider that amendment. I hear a motion and a second to adopt that. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. There's a motion and a second to report as what will be the substitute, and we can vote on the board.
I'm pressing it soft. I was pressing it soft. Look, see? Yeah.
Senator Rouse needs a little assistance in voting, but we're unanimous.
Somebody get it.
Okay. That was your only bill?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. I've got in the queue Delegate Krizak, and then we'll come back to, I think I called Delegate Thomas, but we'll get to Delegate Krizak first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. House Bill 2167, what this does is it updates the existing 50-50 raffle charitable gaming rules by allowing pro sports league like the NFL, Major League Baseball, which will be playing in Bristol, and NCAA sanctioned sporting events and NASCAR to conduct an electronic 50-50 raffle rather than the, right now what we use is an obsolete barrel printing process. It requires duplicate printing of every raffle ticket sold. So this is just really just to clean it up and upgrade it, and we've had help from VDAX on drafting it.
And Delegate Krizak, this is the same as what we reported out of this committee unanimously last year, or has it changed a bit?
It's just some VDAX technical stuff, but otherwise it's the same bill, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Senator Rouse?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman, Delegate Krizak. How do you collect your prize winnings? How is that collected? If you was to win this raffle, is that predetermined or?
It's a random number generator. It's so same. So you know when you go to a Nats game or something, and then you've got those people with the machines.
Sure.
That's what we call the electronic version. If you were doing that in Virginia, they wouldn't have the machines. They would have they'd have carbon paper, and they would sell you that way. And then those tickets have to be go back to a back room, and they have to go through all the numbers. The electronic way just does it all electronically.
Right, but would the winnings, Mr. Chairman, Delegate Krizak, would the winnings be electronic check or through would you receive through I guess, how do you record the winnings if you?
Mr. Chairman, so the change, that doesn't change, this does not change the way you receive your money.
Okay.
Same way as it is currently.
Okay.
Which, to be honest, I don't know.
So that was smooth until that last comment.
It's a good question.
Okay.
Move to report and re-refer to finance.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to report and re-refer to finance, HB 2167. We can vote on that. I didn't ask for public comment.
Thank you.
Good job.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay. Yeah, if you can bear with us just one moment, Delegate Thomas. I've got Delegate Wyatt next to my queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. House Bill 1799 is at the request of a resident in the county. Currently, Virginia Lottery is prohibiting from disclosing any winner's name and address of over $10 million. This bill amends that to reduce it to $1 million. I have a constituent who wants to remain anonymous. Several years ago was one of the lucky ones that did win $1 million. There have been numerous Instagram accounts with her picture that was posted on the lottery's website, and other social media accounts. She's been contacted with folks all over the country with the number of scammers that continue to increase, with requests and bills arriving at her house into the tens of thousands of dollars. So this will just allow those folks that win $1 million up not have to disclose their image or address.
Okay, before we vote, I wanted to ask, there was a motion, a second, but I wanted to ask Delegate Wyatt, we made a decision a few years ago on a former senator's bill to shield the identity of people above 10 million. You want to do it to $1 million. Do you have a qualm about just shielding all the lottery winners' information? Because the idea of them getting advertising or publicity for someone who won $900,000 to me doesn't seem as compelling as people who make $900,000 getting scammed or having people solicit funds from them.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree to that with the amount of elderly people that are being scammed right now and solicited for dollars. I don't know that it was a lot of question came up in the General Laws Committee on our side to question the integrity or the transparency of employees within the lottery that could be possible winners and actually playing.
Well, couldn't employees who win more than $1 million under your bill not, I mean, don't they do audits or check that employees are not winning? Or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anyone from the lottery here who objects to this bill or wants to counsel us? Okay.
Counsel would not object.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Senator Rum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking to the bill.
Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's good to see the delegate again. Fun fact is the delegate took over my old house office after he came in and I moved to this office next door. So when we voted in 2019 in the House at the time, it was Delegate Ware's bill that had moved that. That was kind of the last year where I kind of felt pressured into voting for FOIA exemptions and stuff that I didn't like, but at the same time, it was like, oh, don't pull a bill out of the block, don't do this, blah, blah, that sort of thing. Since then, both bodies have continued adding FOIA exemptions without basically removing some of the exemptions that I believe are well past obsolete and other stuff, to the point where at this point, we have more than 200 FOIA exemptions that are in the Code of Virginia. And again, not the delegate's fault. This has been done, for a long time, both parties, both chambers. And so I've just taken the position in the last few terms of basically having blanket opposition to FOIA exemptions until we start really relooking at how we're making our government more transparent. So my vote against it's not a criticism to the delegate, but is a larger philosophical problem that I have with the way that we treat the Freedom of Information Act.
Okay. Let me ask counsel, if I were to move to amend that we just don't disclose the names of winners of the lottery, is that a hard amendment to make for you all? Can we figure that out? Okay.
We can do it.
Is that?
Before we do that amendment, can I ask a question?
Please.
I guess my anxiety about this is we want people to trust the Virginia lottery and trust that it's on the up and up. And if we're not disclosing who won, it's just kind of like, at what point are we, I'm just asking this because I haven't really thought about it much, but at what point are we worried that people don't trust the lottery and they think it's just a scam where people are, that's not fair, right? That's just a half-baked question, I guess, but worth thinking about.
Okay. Senator Reeves wanted to address that first.
Can we ask the
lottery
commissioner to come up and maybe get his point of view on how changing that code or that process would affect your bottom line and going forward and everything we're trying to do?
Thank you, Chairman. Khalid Jones, Virginia Lottery. In 1987, when the Virginia Lottery started, this was uncapped, essentially. There were no limits that were placed until 2019, and the philosophy was then, as Senator Valkenburg stated, that for people to understand that this is a real enterprise where people are definitely winning, winners' names, hometowns, and the amount won was important. It's also important for us as the lottery to understand that the world has shifted and changed since 1987. There was no internet then. There certainly were no phishing schemes back then. Privacy concerns are heightened, and certainly the number and amount of people who are winning the amounts won are larger now. So while the lottery does not take any position on the bill itself, we understand that we do privacy concerns need to be balanced with our ability to make sure that people do know that it's legitimate. So we understand both countervailing points and certainly can provide any factual information context that you need.
Well, Mr. Jones, just to follow up, is the trend in the other states not that other states are more and more shielding the identity of winners across the country, or am I mistaken?
Yes, Chairman. There are about 17 states that have some form of shielding. Virginia is one of them. Ours is 10 million and up. The majority of states that offer lottery have no shielding for privacy whatsoever, on the theory that it needs to be completely transparent, as Senator Rome was speaking to. So every state's trying to balance that. Every state's trying to understand, and then also is a mix between larger lottery states and smaller ones, states that have other forms of gaming and states that don't. And so there's no one uniform answer, and everyone's trying to figure it out for themselves.
So is there an appetite to amend this to shield it further, or do people want to stick with what we've got? Senator Rouse.
Mr. Chairman, I think I think the $1 million is a good balance right now. I feel comfortable at the $1 million level, just to make sure that there is transparency and for folks to realize that, when we do have winners that are below $1 million, that they see that it could be random and throughout the entire Commonwealth. My concern is with Senator Van Valkenburg's remarks that somehow we put in the restrictions to shield any lottery winners, then people may just think it's a scam and and affect the bottom line of the lottery. So I think the $1 million is a good level.
So you would, okay.
That's the bill, but before it's
Yeah,
down.
Yeah, so
Yes.
he prefers to keep it as is. So just as a comment, I just don't think that the people who make $900,000, $800,000, $700,000 are still pretty liable to be subject to scams. So, yeah, Senator Williams-Graves.
Initially, I agreed with you in terms of shielding everyone, but after listening to all of the other comments with regard to making sure that the lottery seems fair, and then the balance piece between folks' privacy and winning, is it possible? So let me ask this question. What information right now is made public? The name, the address, what is it?
Let's ask Mr. Jones.
Yes, Chairman. Senator, not the address, but the hometown.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, if I won $500,000, the advertisement could be Angela Graves, Norfolk, Virginia, $500,000 lottery winner. And then people would have to figure out how many Angela Graveses there are in Norfolk, Virginia. And then, but criminals got a lot of time on their hands. Okay, so is it possible to regionalize that?
I don't know if we want to tinker with how they do it. I mean,
Okay.
it's pretty easy to find Angela Williams-Graves of Norfolk, I think, but it depends on how common your name is.
And Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair,
Oh, and your image.
listed on the website.
You have to agree to, you agree to a photo if you win more than a certain amount, is that right?
Under the current operations, people can choose not to have their photo.
Okay, thank you.
so Mr. Chair, just a follow-up, I would then go back to the original bill at $1 million. And I think it just goes to the point, everything has a cutoff somewhere. Like, we have tax exemptions. If you make $1 million, you pay more. If you make $1.1 million. So I think the original bill works.
Hearing lots of opposition to changing the delegates' bill and just shielding people at $1 million or greater. So why don't we just vote on, there was a motion and a second to report it as presented. So that's what we'll do.
Ayes 13, noes 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate. Okay. Delegate Thomas. Well, let's give our attention to Delegate Thomas. And which bill are you presenting now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This will be HB 1602.
1602. This bill has been requested by Finance. The motion, if successful, would be to refer to Finance and recommend reporting. This is military leaves of absence. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe there's a small line amendment, if we can.
So there was a line amendment. Can we, there's a motion and a second to adopt the line amendment. Can the clerk direct us to the line amendment, or is it easy to state or explain?
Yes, on lines 28 and line 51, after firefighter, insert or a law enforcement officer as defined in section 9.1-101.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adopting that line amendment will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Delegate, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Last year, the General Assembly passed HB 279, which provided that if you're a firefighter who also is serving in the National Guard, that you're entitled to paid leave for that service period. All this bill does, HB 1602, is extends that same courtesy to police officers, and that is essentially what the bill does.
Questions of the patron. Senator Van Valkenburg, you're in queue.
Mr. Chairman.
Any opposition?
I just have a quick question.
Chairman?
Delegate, does it include or Mr. Chairman, you might be able to answer this, you're a fireman. EMS personnel, are they considered firefighters?
I'd have to defer to counsel that one on Senator. I'm not sure.
Mr. Chairman?
I'll defer to counsel on that.
Only real estate.
Please, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, it's quite a long definition. Do you want me to run through, or who were the specific folks who were? The definition of law enforcement officer that we're referencing is any full-time or part-time employee of a police department or sheriff's office. It includes any special agent of ABC, police agent appointed under the provisions of 56-353, officers of Virginia Marine Police, conservation police officers, who are sworn full-time members of Department of Wildlife Resources, investigators with lottery, conservation officers of DCR, full-time sworn members of DMV Enforcement Division, animal protection police officers, campus police officers, members of investigation units designated by OSEG, an employee with internal investigations authority designated by DOC or by DJJ, private police officers employed by private police departments, or persons designated as a sworn unit investigator at the AG's office.
Senator Reeves.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't know that EMS who responds with fire service all the time is covered, but it might be, I don't want to mess with your bill, but it might be something that we need to include, because I know a lot of our combat medics are EMS responders as well. So I'm not going to make a motion to amend your bill or anything, but I think maybe next year I'll bring a bill and we'll work together to get it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions of the patron?
Mr. Chair,
Senator Head.
just because I was looking at it and I'm a little confused, I don't want to, I just want to be clear on this. Could counsel repeat what exactly was the amendment that we adopted, the line amendment?
Mr. Chair, the line amendment is on
Here it is.
line number 28 and on line number 51, after firefighter, insert or a law enforcement officer as defined in.
Thanks, mimicking where it is in the other parts. I heard the wrong line numbers and I just, it didn't make a lot of sense in what I looked at, so thank you.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
That bill reports. Let's see, Delegate Hayes. It's not going well? Is that what you're saying? If he's still there, it's not going well? It's not going well then. All right, I'm just kidding. All right, the committee will be at ease until we get next patron. All right, the committee will come back to order. So Delegate Hayes, you have, let's see, 1640 before us, and if this motion is successful, it needs to be re-referred to Finance. Delegate Hayes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I had 3 bills in here, bill next door. I'm trying to get my footing. So this one, which bill was this one? Unclaimed property. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, this bill pretty much is in the spirit of trying to make sure in the Commonwealth that we are making sure we do all that we're supposed to do and should do to return what belongs to the people back to the people. Currently, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, individuals have to come ask for what is already theirs from the Commonwealth. One of the challenges I believe that we have is that we need to do all we can to identify the individuals that we owe this money back to. One of the ways to do that is to require the Department of Treasury to work with the Department of Taxation for the purpose of identifying who those individuals are. And once you're able to identify those individuals, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, then of course we can send those funds back to those individuals. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we know that there are reliable ways to identify who we're trying to send these funds to. And for some reason, with this process, there are questions about security and whether or not we're holding the money that really belongs to Mr. Pike. But when it's time for us to send checks out to individuals to the tune of $300, $600 or whatever, we are able to do so by identifying individuals with the Department of Treasury and with our Department of Taxation. We're able to do that. Right now, there is an agreement with those departments that allows for it, but there's no requirement that they work. And so that's the difference in this legislation.
Vote to report.
And refer to Finance.
All right, there's a motion to report and re-refer. Motion to report and re-refer to Finance. Clerk, open the roll.
Pass 15-0.
All right, Clerk, does that complete our docket for the day? All
Thank you,
right,
Mr. Chair.
the committee will rise.